Leanne, let me ask you this question. Do you think the problem was messaging?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I have to use this or can I talk?
Yes.
You guys have to use this.
Okay. If you guys would all come down here where we can see you, then I wouldn't need to. I actually hear overwhelmingly from OFA volunteers that messaging has been a problem, not just in Alabama, but nationally as well. I don't think that we have done a great job nationally talking about the president's accomplishments and healthcare and why it's a good thing and why it shouldn't be repealed and all of those things. But Marika is exactly right in that the Democratic Party in Alabama is never going to be stronger until we deal with the issue of race. I spent the last year of my life traveling around this state, right in the middle of it. And I tell you what, it was shocking, the things that I heard and the things that I saw. And it really, it kind of set me aback that's the state that I live in. And we're going to have to deal with that. Trying to represent the president in Alabama is not an easy job, let's just say.
Okay. Well, is the problem with messaging that we're just crappy at it? Or is the problem that we don't have the same skill set that the Republicans have because we're hampered by things like the truth?
I think it's both of those things. One of our problems is that we don't have a collective message. And to me, the greatest problem with the Democratic Party right now is that we've taken every Democrat in the state of Alabama and divided them into little categories. And everybody stays in their little category and nobody wants to work together. And so then we can't have a cohesive message about something like sales tax on groceries, which is something that everybody agrees on. It would have been a fantastic message for this election. But we can't have a cohesive message until everyone gets out of their corners.
Judge Kennedy, I'm going to start you off with an easy one. You were quoted in an article in 2004 saying that Alabamians only vote on two things, fear and anger. And that Alabamians have a tendency to vote against people, not for people. Do you think that's still true? And if so, which one are we going to run on?
I'm probably, if I'm elected chairman, I probably will be one of the first chairmen to have ever held elective office. And that comment that I made in 2004 was in an interview specifically to discuss my last race for the Supreme Court of Alabama. I ran against a gentleman, well, and that's a stretch, but I ran against a gentleman who ultimately was elected to the Supreme Court. But my race with him was very different. Carl Rove managed his campaign, and it took a huge toll on both me, but more importantly, my wife and my two sons. I think that it's often human nature to always begin, unfortunately, especially in Alabama, because of our history, both politically and culturally, if we respond better. And I think that politicians in the South have known that fear and anger are always the greatest motivators of anybody. They motivate you, they motivate me. It's not just in politics. The antidote to fear and anger is the truth. Many times voters are subjected to information that they don't take the responsibility of determining what is the truth. We're also a victim of the media. The medium is the message. I learned that when I was at Auburn many years ago, and I didn't understand it when I studied speech communications, but more and more we dependent not on what we think, but what someone tells us to think. We don't advocate anything other than passive learning. But I do think that in this past election, I agree with what's been said. I could tick off to you, and most people I would meet on the streets in Montgomery could tick off to you what the Republicans stood for. And it was unified, whether it was in the Tennessee Valley or whether it was in Mobile. It's lower taxes, less government, strong military, and on we go. If I ask those same people, now tell me what the Democrats stand for, they couldn't tell me, because I'm not sure any of us really know. We know in our hearts what we stand for, we just don't know yet, or we haven't taught yet about how do we become more effective communicators. We can have the best intentions in the world, but if we're not communicating those intentions, and as the representative said, if we're not cohesive in our message, then people get confused and don't know who we are. I agree that this race was a lot about race. We had significant drop-offs of white voters in North Alabama. If you look just at the percentage of turnout in the general election in November, most Democratic pundits, if they just saw the turnout was this, would all have said, well, there's no way the Democrats have swept Alabama. But the polls shifted on us, and a lot of folks in North Alabama voted for the message of the Republicans. Now, can you blame it on Obama? Can you blame it on the state party? Can you blame it on the candidates? We don't have time to lay the blame. We know what the problem was. We know what the problem is. And for those of us that are interested in continuing to be a part of the solution, now is the time for us to engage one another and engage our state party and have the state party engage with us, so that working together we can perfect our message and we can rebuild this party from the bottom up. I've spent all of my life, when I wasn't judging, kind of in the nonprofit sector. I've chaired many foundations, and most of the foundations that I chaired were service providers. And the only way that I knew how to do it was to form the message, create the tools, provide the sustenance, and then let the local folks, the providers of service, the local Democrats in this case, spread the message of goodwill and hope for people. So I do believe in 1994 and still today.
There's a book out actually called Herding Donkeys, which it seems to me would be a lot messier than herding cats. But in that, the author says the one thing that the Democratic Party needs is a cohesive ideological message. Isn't part of the problem that we don't necessarily have a cohesive ideology of the Democratic Party, but the fact that we do have diverse views, diverse interests, unlike the Republican Party, which does seem to be somewhat monolithic in its views, certainly of the same hue in the Republican Party. The Democratic Party, that may not be possible for us, is it? Lynn, can you tell me what our cohesive ideology is?
We talk about this a lot, actually, because we're a big tech party, right? I mean, and believe me, working on healthcare, you'll learn really quickly. The Democrats, even in Alabama, go from here to here, and there's a lot in between. And I don't think that we will ever be like the Republican Party, be like a Stepford party where everybody thinks the same and everybody follows instructions and votes the way that they're supposed to. And I don't think we want to be that way. Right. I mean, that's not what the Democratic Party is. And so what we have to do instead is use our diversity as our strength. But we have to work together in order to make that work. But I think that we absolutely, I mean, the healthcare fight is a very good example. You know, there are a lot of people that are still angry that we didn't get single payer passed. But they're going to have a rally in Huntsville tomorrow to not get the bill that we did get passed repealed. And so they know that even though they didn't get everything they want, it's better to be behind what we did get. And I think that if we could all do a better job of supporting what we have, instead of continually talking about how it's not perfect, it would be a better party.
Okay.